Hi, mission revealed here. Today I'm going to explain an adventure and action film, Apocalypto. Released in the year 2006. Let's get started. The calm in the jungle is interrupted when a group of people desperately try to hunt a wild boar. The group had set several traps to catch it, but the boar eludes them. When it looked like it was going to escape, a sophisticated trap pierces its body and the men manage to catch it. They approach in celebration and one of the men named Jaguar Paw cuts open the boar's chest to remove its heart and give it to one of the group called Smoke Frog, who gratefully receives it. Then, he distributes the rest of the organs to his companions, while a young man named Mayato looks at him with distrust. Mayato receives only the animal's testicles, so he begins to complain about having to keep that part again, but Jaguar Paw tells him that every man must eat testicles if he wants to have children, and he obeys. But when he does so, he begins to vomit them and the whole group makes fun of him, so he gets angry and attacks Jaguar Paw. Pedernal, the leader of the group, separates them and exhorts the young Mayato for letting himself be treated that way. She then asks him if everything is going well with his sex life, to which he says yes, but that he is having trouble having children. He then confesses to her that to have his 10 children, he used sonzo leaves, and reaches into his pocket for a handful to give to her. Mayato is about to eat them, but Heavenly Flint warns him not to eat them, but to rub them on his member before having sex with his wife. They both return to the group and Mayato asks for a piece of meat, and scares Jaguar Paw, making him think he was going to hit him again, so they all start laughing together. Suddenly, Jaguar Paw turns around and looks intently toward the jungle, so the rest of the group also becomes alert. At that moment, another group appears and both sides prepare to unleash a fierce battle, but Pedernal talks to their leader and they make exchange food. The other group's leader asks for permission to pass through, and Pedernal agrees. Then a huge group of wounded people starts to pass by, and they tell them that their land was completely wiped out, so they are looking for a new start. As they make their way to the village, Pedernal asks the group not to talk about what they experienced in the forest. He then pulls his son Jaguar Paw aside and tells him that he should not be afraid of what he saw in those people, and warns him that they will go to consult with the village elders. Upon arriving at the village, Mayato is chased to his tent by his mother-in-law, who yells at him that he is useless if he is not capable of having children. Gara Jaguar then arrives home, where he is awaited by his eldest son Tortugas Corn and his wife, who is several months pregnant. Meanwhile, Mayato and his wife run naked out of their tent in search of something to soothe their genitals, since the leaves that Pedernal had given Mayato caused an incredible burning. While this was happening, the whole town burst into laughter. In the evening, the villagers enjoy a campfire while an old man tells a philosophical fable that leaves Jaguar Paw pensive. The next morning, a terrifying nightmare related to the events of the previous evening awakens Jaguar Paw and leaves him awake feeling that something bad is going to happen. At that very moment, a large tribe sneaks up on the village to attack them, but Jaguar Paw notices this and runs away with his family. The enemy tribe sweeps through the village, destroying everything in its path, killing the family men, and trying to take slaves. Jaguar Paw sees all this and wants to go help, but first, he decides to get his family to safety, making them descend into a cave. One of the enemies sees him doing this and goes to look for him, but is easily defeated by Jaguar Paw, who leaves his family and goes running to defend the village. When he gets there, he has a fierce battle with one of the guards, but, when he was about to win, he is captured by the chief of the tribe. He orders his men to leave Jaguar Paw alive, so the man he had been fighting takes revenge by killing Pedernal in front of his eyes, who says goodbye to his son, telling him not to be afraid. Gara Jaguar is knocked out by his new enemy and, when he regains consciousness, he sees that his village has already been completely subdued. The guard discovers Jaguar Paw looking in the direction of the cave where he left his family, so he goes to investigate and cuts the rope he left them to return to the surface. The prisoners are transported through the forest and Jaguar Paw comes face to face with the man of their nightmares. The children chase their parents most of the way, but when they reach a strong stream of water, their paths diverge. Back in the cave for a moment, Jaguar Paw's wife heals her son's wounds with insects. While passing a cliff, the last man in the yoke line slips and is left on the edge of the cliff, but the group does their best to save him. They manage to get him back on the path, but the guard throws him off the cliff anyway. The chief of the tribe realizes this and threatens his subordinate to kill him if he makes such a decision. He takes the place of the man he killed and helps the rest of the group to carry the yoke. In the evening, the tribe's chief congratulates his son for the way he fought and invites him to eat with the leaders. Meanwhile, Jaguar Paw and Mayato are still shocked by what happened and begin to plan their revenge. The next day, while walking through a deserted place, a girl with leprosy approaches and begins to curse the guard and all his people, telling them that Jaguar Man would kill them all. He is frightened and leaves without saying anything to her. After a while, they arrive at a village full of slaves who are covered in white dust. Jaguar Claw talks to the man from his nightmares and he tells him that they are close to their destination. As they pass through the town, the inhabitants look at them in a strange way. A group of people begins to paint them with blue paint and leave their handprints on them. On the other hand, the chief of the tribe and his son negotiate the prisoners with the local chief, and the Katva villagers begin to be bought, but Mayato's mother-in-law is scorned and released, as she is very old and no one wants to buy her. After crossing this commercial zone, the prisoners are taken through a temple where the drawings that decorate the wall give them hints of what they would do with them. They arrive at a pyramid where a huge crowd of people is holding a dark religious ceremony. The place is decorated with human heads and bright colors everywhere. As they climb to the top, they are greeted by a group of priests who begin the rite by pouring blood in front of them. One of those in charge begins to give a speech about the hard times the people are going through, and the people euphorically celebrate the beginning of the rite. The guards bring in the first prisoner and place him on a stone table. Then, they cut off his chest and remove his heart to finally cut off his head and throw it down the stairs of the pyramid where a group of people waits to grab it, doing the same with the body. They repeat the same ritual with the second prisoner and the others begin to accept their end. Mayato says goodbye to Gara Jaguar, but the latter tells him that he does not intend to die yet, and as soon as they try to do the ritual again with him, a solar eclipse begins to happen and drives the people crazy. At that moment, the priest in charge of the ceremony begins to shout that Kukulkan has quenched his thirst for blood and the ritual is over. The eclipse ends and the sunlight returns to bathe the earth. The priest tells the general to get rid of the prisoners and they are taken to an open field where they must run for their lives. The first to try their luck are Mayato and another man, who fall down before reaching the finish line. The second to try is Jaguar Claw with another companion. They run in zigzag to dodge more projectiles and achieve greater effectiveness, but one of them is killed by an arrow. This makes it easier to hunt Jaguar Claw, who keeps trying to run for his life until he is hit by an arrow and falls to the ground. When the general's son tries to give him the final blow, Mayato manages to knock him down to give him time. However, he reaches Gara Jaguar, but he defends himself by stabbing him with the arrow with which he was wounded and runs away. Realizing this, the general begins to run desperately toward his son, trying to kill Jaguar Claw on the way. When he arrives, he sees that his son is already in the twilight of his life and sends him away to begin hunting his killer along with all his subordinates. Jaguar Claw flees from his hunters as best he can through the cornfield until he reaches a gigantic cemetery filled with the victims the Mayans had claimed earlier. As he crosses it, he manages to return to the forest where he lived. His hunters chase him fiercely through the forest, but he manages to slip away since he knows the place very well. To lose sight of them, he climbs to the top of a tree and presses hard on his wound to stop it from bleeding, but a drop of blood falls on the back of one of his hunters just as they pass by. Fortunately, he doesn't notice it and they continue looking for him. Jaguar Paw notices that a black panther is in the same tree as him. Just a few meters ahead, one of the Mayan soldiers notices the drop of blood on his companion's back and they decide to split up to look for Jaguar Paw in the trees. They see him running very close to them and begin to chase him, but they do not notice the puma behind them. It kills one of the men, and even though they tried to save their companion, the puma quickly kills him. The men begin to talk about the prophecy that the girl had given, as it perfectly matched what was happening. But the general orders them to stop and go back to the hunt. He continues to flee until night falls, where he is at a disadvantage since they have torches, but he manages to continue hiding anyway. The next day one of the men finds traces in a tree of the paint that Jaguar Claw has on his body, but is attacked by a poisonous snake, reminding his companions of the girl's prophecy. They say goodbye and leave him to die. Arriving at a waterfall, Jaguar Claw has no choice but to jump before his pursuers catch up with him. They see him emerge victorious from his jump and he begins to challenge them. So the general kills one of the men who suggested going down the other side and orders the rest to jump down the waterfall as well. One of them dies from the fall and the rest follow in the footsteps of Jaguar Claw, who remembered his father's words about fear and decides to confront his enemies. He returns and throws a honeycomb of bees at them, driving them back. He then prepares poisonous darts with thorns and a frog, waits for one of the men, and kills him. He then confronts the man who killed his father and kills him with great skill, after which it begins to rain, causing Jaguar Claw's wife and son to fear for their life. While being chased by the general, Jaguar Claw pretends that an arrow managed to shoot him down, but he only uses this to provoke him. When he runs desperately to avenge his son's death, he steps into the same trap they had used for the boar earlier and is defeated. The other two men chase Jaguar Claw relentlessly and catch up with him, but all three are left staring mesmerized at the horizon. Spaniards from 4 huge ships approach them. As the Mayan men approach the foreigners, Jaguar Claw runs back to his family and rescues them just in time. Finally, The family sees the ships from a distance and decides to escape for a new beginning. The end. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and click the bell icon to get new movie recaps.